So, if you rewatch any teen movie that came out for the year 2010, chances are you'll find yourself face to face with a fat joke or two. You'll probably scoff at them, wince, and proceed to ignore it, because the rest of the movie is fun. That is totally valid and understandable. But, there's a reason it left an awful taste in your mouth, did it not? That kind of humor can be, more often than not, dehumanizing, right? So, what do people who find themselves at the receiving end of such jokes do? Some respond through violence, yes. Others find a way to get even in mischievously tactical ways. And, if you don't fight back, sometimes you conform. You conform and you find yourself in a psychological hellscape. And the same movies that made fun of your weight are now making fun of your way to cope. Your way to escape the torment. Anorexia nervosa is a mental health disorder whose discovery dates back to the late 18th century. The term anorexia nervosa was first coined by British physician Sir William Gull back in 1873. The original term for this eating disorder was anorexia hysteria, but for obvious reasons, the term has since changed to what we now all know as anorexia nervosa. The term has been used for well over 140 years now and is derived from Greek origin, originating from the Greek words an, which means without, orexis, which means appetite, and nervosa, which means nervous system. Gull used the term to describe a condition characterized by self-imposed hunger and extreme weight loss. Although Gull first coined the term in the 18th century, the understanding and recognition of anorexia-like conditions can be traced back to earlier times. There have been several documented and recorded cases of anorexia nervosa in multiple historical periods, but it was Gull who gave name to the condition. Now that we've learned the etymology of the term anorexia nervosa, let's now take a deep dive into what it entails. Anorexia is a serious mental health disorder characterized by an intense fear of gaining weight and a distorted body image that results in self-imposed starvation and excessive weight loss. It has multiple key features such as extreme weight loss, where individuals have a body weight that is lower than what is considered as healthy for a person of their age and height. Now that we've learned the etymology of the term anorexia nervosa, let's now take a deep dive into what it entails. Anorexia is a serious mental health disorder characterized by an intense fear of gaining weight and a distorted body image that results in self-imposed starvation and excessive weight loss. It has multiple key features such as extreme weight loss, where individuals have a body weight that is lower than what is considered as healthy for a person of their age and height. Restrictive eating patterns, where an individual restricts the amount of food they intake. And finally, a distorted body image, where the individual views their body as overweight despite evidence towards the contrary. These features are only a few among the many features of anorexia nervosa. Anorexia nervosa typically begins in adolescence and early adulthood, and is more prevalent among females, although it affects individuals of any gender. Most patients have their weights less than 85% of the normal body weight. Some patients restrict their intake of food and usually do excessive exercise, while others eat in excess on a regular basis, then self-induce in vomiting or abuse laxatives.
In a world where beauty standards are shaped by societal pressures, the escalating prevalence of anorexia nervosa and various eating disorders has become a genuine concern. Today, we delve into the multifaceted factors contributing to the development of anorexia nervosa, placing a particular emphasis on the influence of social media and the evolving landscape of beauty standards. According to Morris and Katzman's findings, there has been a notable increase in eating disorders among adolescent girls over the past 50 years. Specifically, the reported prevalence rate for anorexia stands at 0.48% among girls aged 15 to 19. The question arises, what forces are at play, pushing young minds towards an idealized but often unhealthy notion of beauty? Anorexia is not solely a product of media influence, rather it is an intricate interplay of genetics, environmental factors, and social dynamics, and an individual's personality traits. Teenagers and young women, in particular, find themselves exceptionally vulnerable to societal beauty standards. Intriguingly, despite their desire for thinness, these individuals often exhibit a nuanced perception of the media's role in shaping their self-image, as indicated by Tijman's findings. This nuanced perspective may serve as a protective factor against the overwhelming pressure exerted by media influences. As we delve further into these intricate dynamics, it becomes evident that addressing anorexia necessitates a comprehensive, multifaceted strategy. Life unfolds through various stages, with adolescence representing a pivotal period of rapid change and self-discovery. A study conducted by Escaton in Davao City sheds light on body-shaming experiences among senior high school students, revealing their interconnectedness with diverse agents of socialization encompassing family, peer groups, school, and mass media. Furthermore, an article by Cambio and Co. outlines the involvement of families in nationwide cultural issue of fat shaming, a contributing factor to the development of anorexia. Consequently, understanding the concept of socialization is imperative for comprehending the development of individuals within a social environment. Our lesson, Self as Developing and Participating, underscores the fundamental role of external influences or socialization agents in shaping an individual's development. Within the familial sphere, parents assume the role of endeavored role models transmitting attitudes towards appearance. Communication patterns within the family can either nurture a healthy self-perception or sow the seeds of dissatisfaction, potentially contributing to the risk of eating disorders. According to Freud, anorexia nervosa represents a complex interplay of life and death instincts, with unconscious fantasies that may manifest destructively towards oneself and others. In certain cases, the death aspects of anorexia may be rooted in trauma, while in others they may result in the developmental issues stemming from early childhood relationships. As we navigate this complex social landscape, it is important to recognize the essential role of socialization agents. By creating positive spaces, we can work together to dismantle the unrealistic expectations that contribute to this intricate environment of eating disorders.
So, it's no surprise that anorexia nervosa is an issue that can be found almost anywhere. Regardless of how one comes across it, the agents of socialization present are universal. Therefore, as Filipinos, we should be aware that awareness of anorexia contributes to the promotion of mental health advocacy, thereby broadening the understanding of mental health conditions in the Philippines. This knowledge is necessary for the development of effective policies, the preparation of the healthcare system, and the establishment of supportive environments for those affected by anorexia nervosa. Tanpunting's House Bill number 4318 is a proposed Eating Disorders Awareness Prevention and Education Act. This will be a collaboration with the Department of Health, the Department of Education, and the Commission on Higher Education in order to conduct extensive research to effectively identify and treat students suffering from eating disorders. The proposed House bill will require the following departments to improve the identification of students with eating disorders so that they may receive appropriate medical treatment, increase awareness of such disorders among parents and students, and train educators such as teachers, school nurses, school social workers, coaches, school counselors, and administrators on effective eating disorder prevention and assistance methods. I will say this. I hope that any method that ends up being acted upon considers the factor of privacy involved. Even though we aim to destigmatize mental illnesses, it's still something people who suffer from them feel. The best thing for people who suffer through this is the need to feel safe and protected. So whatever societal action is taken should also consider that these are individual people with individual causes for their problems and therefore need individual care. So what can we do? We, as in the general public, the powerless individual. Well, for starters, we readdress the factors, or rather, agents that lead to anorexia in the first place. It's no surprise that Filipino culture involves our loved ones talking about our figure right in front of our faces. We have been taught from a young age that euphemisms such as malusog exist for our perusal, and yet we continuously insist on using somewhat derogatory terms such as mataba, knowing full well the connotations it offers within a cultural and linguistic context. And then, if someone grows increasingly thin, they either met with praise or excessive coddling? Di ka ba kumakain? Pataba ka naman? Or whether we acknowledge it or not, these turns of phrase contribute to the prevalence of anorexia nervosa as well as eating disorders at large. How do we rectify this then? Well, the easy explanation would just be to not say these things. It's a common social rule after all. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But try explaining that to your titos and titas at Noche Buena, right? So, what's a more practical way to deal with this? Well, if we can't avoid it, at least let the people suffering take control of the narrative. They could shut it down as fast as they could entertain the subject for as long as they want, maybe make a little fun at their own expense if it makes them feel better. Regardless, letting people linger on this topic for longer than necessary is the easiest villain to fight here in my opinion, so that's where we should start. Being a mostly social problem, it's easy to get wrapped up in fallacies and pointless arguments where people try to justify their behavior and in turn villainizing everyone else. So the best solution here is to ground ourselves, state that what they said is wrong, state why it's wrong, and what it is we think they should do. The first two are more important than the last one, but I'd argue it's at least somewhat detrimental, at least to the people who really just do need that kind of hand-holding. So we ground our argument, and if they try to make it about something else, we bring it back. Because more often than not, they know that what they're saying is indefensible. So they defend everything else and deflect from the original point because that's the only way they even stand a chance of getting the last word. Lastly, just encourage empathy. Encourage change. And among all the solutions I offer, this is probably the hardest, least convincing, and definitely the most time-consuming one. But it's also the most flexible because I'm not saying that you should be kind or always be patient, but I'm definitely not saying to whack someone over the head with this rhetoric over and over again. Whatever method of reasoning one comes up with, you work at it at your own pace, whichever works best for you and the person you're trying to deal with. It's your body, or rather, it's a person's body. So whether someone says or does with it, the person calls the shots. At the end of the day, anorexia nervosa presents itself as a way for you to control yourself in the food you intake, but it is just you submitting, conforming to the unreasonable, unsustainable, and unhealthy standards of the world at large. Take control of the narrative, take care of yourself, and take care of everyone else who is worth it.